Okay, so what we're going to do now is go to item 7.6, which is the draft annual plan for engagement. And I'd like to welcome our Corporate Services Manager, Kelly, to the table. And I'll get you to introduce the report.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay, so this report presents the draft annual plan to Council. In the February Council meeting, elected members decided not to formally consult on the annual plan for the 2022-23 year. And this is because there were no significant changes from year 2 in the 2021 to 31 long-term plan. So this is an update of the year 2 figures from the long-term plan. So we have drafted, officers have drafted a draft annual plan. Elected members still wanted the opportunity to engage with the community. So we have presented the draft plan and we will be accepting feedback either via the elected members or directly from the community on the annual plan. So it's not formal consultation, there won't be formal hearings, but there will be an opportunity in May. The elected members will meet to discuss any further adjustments and changes or anything where we update our numbers as we get closer to year end. We get some clarity around some of our balance sheet and that kind of thing. And then the next step would be to adopt or make those final adjustments, and then the council will adopt the final annual plan in the June council meeting. So I just will flag just a couple of things. As I mentioned, there were no significant changes from year 2. We have, however, delayed the administration building project due to the uncertainties around the Three Waters reform. While we get some clarity on this, and then council can make some decisions going forward. So at the moment, that project is just delayed. The rates increase signalled at 4.52% in year 2 of the LTP. The average rate increase at the moment is 6% in the draft annual plan, which is slightly higher than planned. And that's largely driven by the increased inflation we have seen, which is quite a bit higher than was assumed in the long-term plan. So the council is not required to adopt this draft plan, but it is presented, I guess, in a public forum for discussion and questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for introducing that. So we'll go to questions. And Rebecca, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I do have a few questions. I'll just find them all. Okay. I'll start with page 6 of the annual plan, and there's a little pie chart, and I just thought that the other income box seems very high. Is this correct? And if so, where are the funds coming from?
No, you're absolutely right, Rebecca. Thank you for picking that up. That is much too high, and that chart had picked up the wrong data field. So we have corrected that. The large segments should definitely be the rates, the UAGC and the targeted rates. So we have updated that graph and we've put that in the draft annual plan, which will be refreshed on our website either tomorrow or Friday.
Fantastic. But also sad that we don't have extra income. Never mind. My second question is around the Burl Index and whether or not it's going to be updated before we adopt the annual plan, because currently we are sitting higher than our self-imposed limit when it comes to rates increases, but the index is quite low compared to the CPI at the moment, and that impacts on our limit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the official Burl rate, which was released in about October last year, is 2.8%. But I think, as everyone knows from the media and everyday experiences, inflation is actually quite a bit higher than that. I've seen probably 5.9% floated around, and probably quite even higher for some of the capital projects, pipes and materials. So I did have a session earlier this week where Burl was discussed, and unfortunately they will not be doing an update for the annual plan. their next update won't be until probably September, October later this year, and that will be for the following year's annual plan. So we are unfortunately stuck with that 2.8%, which will mean that we breach that self-imposed limit, which is disclosed in as part of the annual plan.
Okay, thank you. Page 22 of the annual plan around the transfer station upgrade. Our figures that we've got in there are capital expenditure of $233,500, which is compared to the LTP year 2 figure of $76,500, which is quite an increase. However, we did approve $100,000 at our February council meeting of unbudgeted expenditure, as we'd received a $100,000 grant from the Ministry for the Environment. So I guess I'm just wondering, is this a bit of a double up of approvals? What actually is the cost of what's happening down there?
Yeah, you're right there. The main reason for the increase is that we have included the weighbridge, which is mostly funded by NFE. So the reason for that is that we're not quite sure when that work will take place, and if it doesn't take place in the current financial year, rather than it kind of having dropped off the radar, we carry it forward. But when we get to making those final updates in May, we'll definitely know by then as to the kind of status of that project, and if it's underway, we will remove it from the annual plan year because it's in this current financial year. And there are a couple of other minor changes in that the waste management capital program, just to reflect some additional CapEx required for on the kiosk and the other weighbridge, just because of the increased use of those. But that main driver is definitely that, I guess, double up of that $100,000 for the new weighbridge. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Our Waka Kotahi subsidies down almost $200,000, which is quite a big impact on our annual income. What's the rationale for this? Because it was my understanding that we mainly had those figures sorted for our LTP.
Yeah. So you're right. We did have most of our indicative funding. We didn't, unfortunately, get confirmation of the low cost thank you, funding until about September. And unfortunately, that was lower than we had applied for, which happened to all councils around the country, actually. Some were quite significantly worse off. So that was after we had adopted the long-term plan, so we couldn't change those figures. But going forward into this year, we have updated that so that we're in line with those approvals from Waka Kotahi.
Awesome. Hopefully that's a bit of a planning niggle they can sort out with the Future for Local Government review, because the timings of that aren't very useful.
Yes, it's been discussed, just to get that alignment a bit better, because it kind of doesn't make sense that we approve our budgets before we get confirmation.
Yeah. I have 4 more questions, I'm afraid. So first off, just wondering what's happening with the current assets on page 28 of the annual plan. It seems like our rates receivable at the end of the financial year looks quite high. And we also seem to be about $6.3 million better off compared to our LTP figures.
Yep, so at the moment, our financial model calculates rates, debtors and other debtors using a kind of formula based on the total income we expect to receive. So that is, quite a bit higher. That's one of the figures that we will look at refining as we get closer to year end, or look at where we actually are in terms of those outstanding debtors and adjust accordingly. So the last couple of years, I think rates, debtors at year end have been around 400,000. So we'll probably end up somewhere around there. But we will make that, like I said, adjustment at the end, probably for some of those balance sheet items. And then the other current assets, so driving that, at the moment we do have quite big cash balances because we have been pre-funding our capital program. So we will adjust that based on, I guess, what we have spent coming up to year end, and then also making sure like our reserve movements are flowing through and that kind of thing as well. So that is probably going to come down also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's a great explanation. When are we due for our next tranche of Three Waters funding, and have we allowed for it within this annual plan? So
the next tranche we are due for it now. So we have made our application, and that has been approved. So we are expecting to receive that very shortly in this financial year.
Cool, that's great.
So that's not included. Yeah.
Probably more of a comment around we can remove the community notice board advertising fee in our fees and charges, because I don't think we use that, and that board's about to fall over. Will be dug out. And then my final question is just around the Rotunda earthquake strengthening. It's my understanding that that's going through a bit of an assessment at the moment. When are we going to have the final outcome of that assessment, and is it going to change our capital expense projections for next year?
Yeah, so we have had some indicative information. We're waiting on the final report. I don't know if you've heard, so we haven't heard when that's due yet. That is looking as though we may not need to spend that, in which case we would bring that out. But we are, as I say, waiting for that final report.
Awesome. Well, that'll be great if we don't have to. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thanks for your time on that.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Rebecca and Kelly. Your answers are great. Okay, we'll carry on for questions. Robin, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place because I made a whole load of notes while I've been in and out of queuing for flights. And Rebecca, you picked up on the ones that I had with the other income, and also highlighted the special funds held of the 6.2, but thank you, Kelly, you've answered that. And I'm just trying to scroll through. I did have another one, but I can't find it, so it may not have saved. But Rebecca has covered off a couple that I did have highlighted. So nothing. If I do have another one, Greg, if I find it, I'll just put my hand up.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Robin. Steve.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for your hard work on this, Kelly. Thanks for raising the ban rotunda, Rebecca. Brilliant, because I remember that was brought up at I think it was an infrastructure and services meeting, and Dave mentioned that there might not be any strengthening required on it. So I was hoping that 255,000 might be off our rates. That would be wonderful. But Kelly, just below that, on page 15, it's got in there the urban development in the town centre and the car park, the ops yard. Around 102K of that was for the car park in the ops yard. I'm just wondering, has any scope of works been done for that? And is that going to be in any way, shape or form going to cover what we need to do? I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer that.
I'll answer that, Steve. It's Jeff here. So can I pick that up in our CE report? The short answer is we've had 3 estimates come back on the depot since the council approved that project to proceed. At this stage, none of those estimates fit in with the budget that the council had approved. So we haven't done anything. We are working on trying to jig the scope so that it does fit in with the budget that the council approved. If we can't do that, we will bring the project back to council with options for you to consider.
Thank you. On page 17, in the long-term plan, it was for the district plan review. It was the committee resolved to take a partial review at a cost of 200K. I'm just curious that you've got written in there direct cost of review are 350.
I believe total costs are actually 700. Maybe
Yeah.
Sol can.
Yeah, so the total cost of the district plan review over a number of years, Steve, is planned to be $710,000. But that and our component of that is $710,000. So, but that's over a number of years and includes an assumption around hearings proceeding following the plan being, consulted on, because we do have to go through a consultation with this plan. So yeah, the long-term overall plan review cost is about $710,000.
Okay, thank you on that. Page 19. There's some extra costs there compared to the long-term plan for the traffic service renewals, and I'm just trying to understand what that actually means. And also in the same block, the minor improvements in the long-term plan was 760K, and that's dropped down to 275. So it's just understanding the changes in these figures, that's all.
Yeah, I suspect the change there is just the way it's been broken down. We haven't changed a whole lot in terms of the roading program, except to reduce the low risk, low cost. So I might have to get back to you about the traffic services renewal specifically.
I can't answer that one. We'll have to get back to you on that one if we can, Steve.
No, that's fine. My other question is just based around quite a number of the figures through the annual plan, that the difference between them and the long-term plan. I'm guessing, is this because of using the magic system and figures have moved around and found their right place, if I can put it that way?
There are a few changes because of using magic. Most of the changes we've seen are where we know that things are going to, say, cost us more, or where we've been able to reduce costs, and we've made those adjustments. Are there any in particular you wanted to ask about? So I might be able to give a bit more clarity.
Just really through a lot of the, like for example, the stormwater reticulation differs from the long-term plan, and the wastewater differs from the long-term plan. Just practically, all of them are quite different to long-term plan. So I was just curious about the differing figures. The water reticulation in the long-term plan was 78, and in the annual plan it's 932. Is that incorporating some of the costs involved with the tanks, storage tanks and things like that? So it's just understanding where those changes in figures.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So a lot of it will be around the way we've classified it, because we really haven't brought in any new major projects. And there are a couple of things where we know that we're not going to get things finished this financial year. We'll be able to start the program. So we've brought it into the new annual plan year so that we don't kind of miss it, it doesn't fall off the radar. But we haven't, as I said, added any significant projects. But I'm happy to do a bit of a comparison for you, if you like, and send that out to elected members so you can see where those changes have come through.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Good questions. Now I've got a question for you, and I hope you're in support of it. I said we'd adjourn after 2 hours, but I don't think it's a good idea to adjourn in the middle of an item, especially the annual plan. So is everyone comfortable that we take our adjournment after we finish the annual plan work we're doing now? Okay. Everyone's supportive, that's good. Well, we'll continue and then we'll adjourn for 15 minutes after that. So we'll carry on with questions. Jill.
No extra questions from me, but I'm sure our ratepayers will have many, so we'll probably end up fielding them.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Brian? Are you on mute, Brian?
Sorry. I've got no questions at the moment. Just some comments later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dale.
Yeah, no questions, Your Worship. Steve covered the couple that I had. Yeah, only comments.
Thank you. Robin. Yeah, no, sorry, we did on you, yeah. So that's all of us, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to comments now. And Rebecca, start with you, please. Comments, discussion.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm very supportive of this plan. I agree that we need to finish what we've started and not add in any new large projects at the moment. I would like to acknowledge that the rate increase is slightly higher than what we had first anticipated, and that, you know, the combination of inflation, a tight labour market, and construction costs do make for very tricky financial planning. And just wanted to reassure the community that council and staff have gone through this with a very fine-tooth comb and are actively looking for alternative funding sources wherever we can. And if there were any easy solutions to reducing the rates, we would have done them, and we would have done them by now. So, but you know, that's not to minimise the financial struggles that some people are experiencing. So I do encourage that if rates are too much for a household, that they do go and talk to someone about that. There is also the rates rebate, which although is quite limited, but encouraged people to go and claim that if they are eligible for that. Yeah, so just thank you, and thanks to the team for all the work that's gone into this so far, and look forward to hearing more from the community over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Rebecca. Jill.
No real comments, but it's hard work putting these plans together. But as I say, we're not doing anything really massively big, so we're just hopefully completing projects, and hopefully they will be completed as best as possible. Yeah, so I look forward to our community engagement.
Thank you, Jill. Steve?
Thanks, Greg. I don't really have anything further to add. Rebecca's pretty well said it all. Yeah, just appreciate all our management's work in bringing this together. I know it's tough, and we feel the heat from the community with how tough it is. So thank you for doing the best you can to get it down.
Yeah. Kia ora, Steve. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I'd just like to acknowledge the work that Jeff and Kelly have put into this, and the wider team. With a new CE brings different styles of workshops, and we have had some really good workshops and really good discussions on rates this year. So thanks to Jeff and the team for putting it all together. I just got to, I think we've got to remember and tell the public that this is a draft plan, and we encourage feedback from the community, and we will make the final changes at the end of the draft plan, and hopefully we can consider a lot of input that has come back from the ratepayers in this, and make our final decisions. So thanks very much to everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Dale?
Yeah, I suppose the comments I would make, I mean, the 6% where we've landed in this draft is certainly more than we signalled, and obviously more than we hoped we could achieve. But it's certainly also a lot less than was projected. I mean, councillors would know some of the work that we've done in the last couple of months. Some of our starting points were well into double figures, which, you know, is an extraordinary amount of work has gone on. So, and I suppose after year two, we're locked into a long-term plan, which has been consulted upon. We've got asset management plans in play, and obviously a lot of central government reforms underway. So stopping things just isn't an option. It doesn't matter how much we would like to, in some cases, it isn't an option. So, and the other point I just want to make around CPI, which people always sort of balance against rate increases. And just to say, and I guess this is not for us because we know this, but more for the general public, I guess, in that, you know, we're currently hovering around 6.5%, 7% CPI, which is absolutely unheard of in modern memory. But council isn't a consumer. CPI is driven by clothing, whiteware, appliances, televisions, motor vehicles and so forth, clothing, food, and council doesn't buy that. Pretty much everything we do is revolves around petrol and bitumen for roading. And everybody knows the cost of petroleum is 30+% increase in the last year. So back when we were setting projected rate increases to starting our LTP, you know, the war in Ukraine and all of this other stuff, I'm not making excuses, but I'm just trying to be absolutely realistic. Everybody in charge of a household, everybody in charge of a business is living every minute of the day with the sort of increases. And as I say, council is not driven by CPI, it's driven by certain purchases, which unfortunately are at the higher end of the increases. So we're really, the fact that of getting it down to 6% and knowing the amount of hours that we've put into this, and certainly staff, and I want to acknowledge Kelly and Jeff particularly in being able to constantly sharpen pencils when probably there was no pencil left to sharpen. But what we've ended up with, I think, on behalf of the ratepayers, is far better than where we started and far better, frankly, than even right up until the last minute. I didn't think we were even going to get there. I guess I'll finish by saying the challenge now and going forward is, as it's always been, we've got to keep our spending to within budget. Our projects, our facilities, our activities, that's where the work that we'll put in going forward is making sure that we don't blow budgets. And Jeff's already mentioned in the previous discussion around relocate, you know, potentially relocating the parking and so forth. The challenge is to bring projects in on budget, and that's where all our work's going to be. So, yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, great comments, Dale. Thank you. Robin.
Yeah, kind of following on in the same vein as you, Dale. I think having had some feedback already from the community, I think I just really like to stress to the community that there aren't a whole load of nice to haves, and just I'd like the community and ratepayers to be rest assured that there aren't any fancy Christmas dinners or expense account budgets that some people seem to think you guys are running rampant with. So, and cost overruns, that's, as Dale has already said, that's happening everywhere. The price of petroleum, you know, sort of building works, everything is going up. And I'd like to take my hat off to Jeff and the team of managing the expenses and being, you know, having really, really sharp pencils. And certainly, as you said, Dale, you know, initially we were looking at double figures and we were all horrified, but it's been a lot of hard work. I think that people in our community, I think they are under the misconception that everything council does has a cost overrun. I think obviously they don't see the ins and outs and see where costs are saved. And I think, you know, a classic example is deferring the main office building potential redevelopment, because that's the most prudent thing for us to do, especially with an unknown sort of future of local government. The fact that the car parking lot is being kind of put on hold so that they can hopefully bring that in under budget. And I think, agree, you know, we do need to stick to budget, but it's really hard sticking to a budget, and any business owner will know and households will know you can have a budget, but with the way costs are going up overnight, it's really, really hard. I mean, we're doing some building work at home and the quotes are only valid for 7 days. And that's the same, ratepayers, community, that's the same for council as well. It's stuff is a little bit out of control. But the pencils have been really, really sharpened, and I look forward to seeing having communications. Personally, for the ratepayers out there that do watch this, I prefer face-to-face conversations. I won't engage in Facebook because I would rather have an honest sit down, come and talk to me, give me a call, let's have a coffee, let's meet up and discuss things face-to-face. And I know other councillors are of the same opinion. So please, ratepayers, when I get back to Carterton, hopefully tomorrow morning, I'm more than happy to have a chat and understand what your concerns are and see if I can help allay some of those fears too. So Kelly, Jeff, thank you and the team for everything you've done so far.
Thank you, Robin. I mean, there's not a lot more to add to that.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Kia ora, team. Thank you, councillors, for your feedback. And I'd just like to acknowledge that staff have spent a great deal of time listening to the feedback we've received, and the plan that you've got in front of you is really a plan that has been the whole of council pulled together. So I appreciate your kind words, but it wasn't just Kelly and I, it was the entire team that pulled together to deliver the plan that you have in front of you. And we certainly are very aware of issues that our ratepayers face when we do these sorts of plans. And that feeds across everything we do when we have these conversations. I would like to highlight that the process from here is one of feedback, which is different to a consultation process. So a consultation process will involve public hearings and the opportunity for the public to present their views and ask council to consider. What we're doing in this case is a feedback process, so that feedback will come through to us and to you as councillors. We will consolidate that feedback and present it into the next plan coming forward, but it won't involve a public hearing type process. And I just thought it was worthwhile clarifying that. That's the process we're planning on doing for this annual plan. Kia ora.
Thank you. Yeah, just as a final comment, I just want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this, and I believe that this annual plan is really sticking to the knitting, but doing the knitting very well, and the jersey that will come out will still be a quality jersey. And there's a hardship up there, and today I was at the opening of Transmission Gully talking to other mayors, and they're all finding it very, very difficult in this current environment to keep rates at any sort of level. And the future of local government work that's going on, it's got to address funding, how councils are funded. It just can't continue like this. It's very, very difficult to keep rates down with the costs and what's expected of local government and the funded mandates that come out of central government especially. But I believe that, as everyone said, that we've worked on this and we've got into a position where we can deliver the outcomes we want for our community, as efficiently as we can. But we're looking forward to the feedback going forward. So just thank you all the elected members for the work that you've contributed to the workshops, and also Kelly and Jeff and the team as well. So thank you. So just before we go to